This is a mock presentation of how to perform It's Time to Believe in mind reading and in hypnosis. I tell the spectators that I've been dabbling in hypnosis and mind reading, and I've had some success recently. But first, before I hypnotize you or try to read your thoughts, I'd like to point out that the numbers on a deck of playing cards correspond to the numbers on a wristwatch. For example, 7 represents 7 o'clock. The 4 is 4 o'clock. The Jack would be 11 o'clock on the face of the watch. The 8 for 8 o'clock, the Queen for 12 o'clock, and so forth. So as I wave the wristwatch in front of you, I want you to think of any hour on the wristwatch from 1 to 12 o'clock, which they do. Now they've been hypnotized. To get into the presentation, you tell them, first I'm going to try to read your thoughts, if that's okay with you. And then I would like to prove to you that you have truly been hypnotized. Now, so you don't think this is a card trick per se, shuffle the cards for me, which the spectator does. They shuffle the cards. They give them back to the magician. I'm going to be calling off the hours from the top of the deck, such as 12 o'clock, such as 8 o'clock. I'm going to be laying them on the table one at a time. And as I call them off, listen for the hour that you're thinking of. Would you do that? Don't tell me what it is, just listen for the hour that you're thinking of. 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Did you hear the hour you're thinking of? They'll say yes or no. That's all that the spectator ever says. You then do that again with a second group of cards that you have in your hand. Did you hear the hour then in that group of cards? They'll say yes or no. You do it the third time, and of course, by the time you get down to the last 4 or 5 cards, you're calling them off like you did before. 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. Did you hear the hour that you're thinking of then? Now you do this 4 times is all you have to do, and you're finished with that first segment of the routine. At this point, you can tell the spectator that, you know, I picked up a clue as to the hour that you're thinking of, and to tell you the truth, it was almost reassured to me the fact that you were going to think of 4 o'clock, didn't you? Yeah, 4 o'clock. Now, believe it or not, that's the hour that the spectator did merely think of. You're always right, no matter what hour they think of. 4 o'clock, am I right? They'll say yes. Then you say, well, you know, I had a little bit of reassurance because I gave you a post-hypnotic suggestion to think of 4 o'clock. Now, you may not believe you're hypnotized, so I'm going to have to prove that to you, too. Because on the back of the rest of the cards, I had printed 4 o'clock. It's actually printed on the cards. 4 o'clock was the only hour that you could possibly think of because I actually had it printed on the backs of the cards, proving that I gave you a post-hypnotic suggestion. Now, don't you think it's time to believe? The playing cards consist of the following order. Taking a magic marker, you take 12 playing cards and you draw the numbers from 1 to 12, digital numbers like you would see on a digital clock, from 1 to 12 upon all the cards. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. You'll notice the only thing you need to be aware of is to have the numbers printed off to the left and not running to the border on the right. What I mean by that is I never try to cross this line upon the rectangle, the center rectangle of a bicycle playing card. I never try to cross that line, which means that when I spread the cards like this, the numbers will be seen because the numbers are off to the left-hand side of the card. But if I reverse them, then the numbers will not be seen, all except for the top one, because they were not printed on the right-hand side of the card. So keep the numbers off to the left. You need the numbers from 1 to 12. When you have those printed upon the cards, you turn them around facing the spectator or the audience. It would be upside down to you. Lay them on the table as your first part of the stack. The next 5 cards, nothing printed on those, just 5 cards. They go on top. The next 4 cards, sometimes I use 4, sometimes I use 3. I took 4 cards
I laid them on the table, I gave them a slight ribbon spread, I taped them down top and bottom, and I drew a circle or a zero upon those cards. So when I removed the tape, top and bottom, I had a zero whenever I would spread the cards in a ribbon spread formation. I took 4 cards and I printed or drew the zero on there. The printed side of the cards goes to the left on your setup. The next 2 cards, nothing printed on those. The next 3 cards, remember I said you could do the zero with 4 cards or 3 cards. Well, I chose to do 3 cards on this one. Again, I taped them down to the table, top and bottom. I made my drawing, took the tape off, and there you have the zero whenever you ribbon spread those cards. Again, the writing is off to the left. The next single card, nothing to that one, just a blank card, nothing drawn on the back. The next 2 cards, these cards when ribbon spread and connected together represent the dots within a digital time display, the 2 little dots within the time display. Only 2 cards for that one. Again, the writing is off to the left on these 2. The last card is simply just a regular card, nothing printed on that. That makes up your 30 card stack for the first half. The other half of the pack, they're not really stacked, there's no particular order, but I like to use the Ace of Spades as an indicator card later on so I know where to cut the cards when they're face up. I always cut at the Ace of Spades. So you have the regular cards, you have the cards that are written on top of those, and everything goes inside the box. Make sure that any writing that shows is going to be towards you and not the spectators. On the box, you're going to need to write a cheat sheet on the edge of 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 4 rows of numbers. The first row consists of an 8, 12, 9, 11, 10. The second row, 4, 12, 5, 7, 6. The third row, 2, 7, 10, 3, 6, 11. Fourth row, 1, 5, 11, 9, 3, 7. You're going to be using these rows of numbers to call out within your presentation. And you're only going to be paying attention to the very first number of each row. Whenever the spectator says, yes, I hear my number or the hour that I'm thinking of. You only need to pay attention to the 8, the 4, the 2, and the 1 when you have to add them together to come up with the hour that they're thinking of. This will become clearer during the presentation. This is your cheat sheet upon the box. So the cards are placed into the box and you're ready to perform. All you need is a wristwatch to do the hypnosis gag and you're ready to go. Let's take a look at a run through and see how this whole thing is put together. For the presentation, you show the wristwatch, a pack of cards. You let the spectator know that you've been dabbling in hypnosis a little bit. You've had some success. And that even led you to perhaps reading a few thoughts or a few minds this evening. So let's see if that's possible. You spread the cards upon the table, making sure that any writing that may be showing from your magic marker is held in a down position. You can spread the cards upon the table, emphasizing that the numbers of the playing cards are represented on a watch. The 3 is 3 o'clock, the 9 would be 9 o'clock, the 2, 2 o'clock, the Jack, 11 o'clock, and so forth. Now you wave the watch in front of them and you tell them you're going to hypnotize them. You snap your fingers, they're now hypnotized, supposedly. You then have the spectator think of any number, any hour on the watch, any hour whatsoever. As they're doing that, you separate the deck where the indicator card is. In this case, the Ace of Spades is my indicator card. You separate the pack at that point. They're thinking of an hour upon the wristwatch. No one knows what it is. You give them half of the pack and you tell them to shuffle the cards rather thoroughly, which they do. You explain to the spectator that you're going to have them think of the hour they're thinking of repeatedly in this fashion. I'm sort of going to force you to think of it by listening to it whenever I might possibly name it. I'm going to call off the cards as you shuffled them in the order that you shuffled them in. For example, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 9 o'clock, kings doesn't count, 4 o'clock, etc. I'll name them in the order that they've been shuffled. And if you hear the hour that you're thinking of, then I just simply want you to tell me yes or no. Now, as I deal the cards and apparently name them, I'm actually calling off the first row of numbers on the side of the card box, from the 8 to the 10. So I say, okay, 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. Did you hear the hour that you're thinking of? Now let's pretend they're thinking of 5 o'clock, just as an example. It doesn't matter what hour they think of. Let's just pretend 5 o'clock. They're going to say no to that packet. You notice there's no 5 within those numbers that you called out. So just ignore everything. You don't have to remember the first number. Don't remember anything. Simply go to the second packet and call those off. The second group of numbers starts with a 4. You say, okay, let's try it again. There's 4 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. Did you hear the number that you're thinking, the hour that you're thinking of amongst those numbers that I called out? And they'll say yes, because they did hear the 5. Well, now you have to remember the very first number of that group, which is the 4. Simply remember 4. You go to the next group. You call out the 2, the 7, the 10, the 3, the 6, and the 11. Did you hear the hour you're thinking of there? They're going to say no, because there is no 5 in that group. The last group of cards you call out, the 1, the 5, the 11, the 9, the 3, and the 7 o'clock, they're going to say yes, because the 5 was within that group. The very first number is what comes to your attention. You always add up the very first number to all the groups they say yes to. So the 1 and the 4 make 5. So now you know they're thinking of the hour 5 o'clock, but they don't know that yet. Say, okay, you've been concentrating rather intensely for me. I think it's time for me to prove to you that perhaps you have been hypnotized. Now at this point, you need to get 5 cards, because they're thinking of 5 o'clock, from the top and undercut to the bottom. Actually, the 5th card you need to have. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th card you need to have undercut to the very bottom of this packet. And this is how you do it. As you're simply talking to the spectator, you've done a very good job so far. What you do is you shuffle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, keeping a break under the 5th card. You throw these cards on top and you cut at the break, bringing that 5th card underneath. It works every time. In this case, it's the number 5. So as you talk to the spectator, you say, yes, I think I've gotten an impression as to what, and as you're cutting the cards to get everything in position, I think I know what hour you're thinking of. You're thinking of 5 o'clock, aren't you? And they'll say, yes, I am. Well, of course, no one will know how you knew the hour was 5, but you can prove to them that actually you gave them a post-hypnotic suggestion with the wristwatch. That's how I knew it was 5. You see, I also took the liberty of actually printing on the back of my cards the exact hour that you will be thinking of. In this case, 5 o'clock. The digital representation of 5 o'clock is now facing them. At this point, I like to lift up the cards a little bit to prove there's nothing else written on them. I actually printed this ahead of time that you would be thinking of 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock it is. A successful demonstration of reading someone's mind. You know the hour they're thinking of, and you actually predicted it ahead of time by printing it on the backs of your playing cards. Here's another example. If they were to think of a different number, let's say they think of the number, let's say they choose a difficult one, say 10, because you're going to have to transfer 10 cards eventually. It's really a simple thing to do. You know they're thinking of the number 10 because they said yes to the first row of letters, first row of numbers, which is an 8, and they said yes to the third row of numbers, which is a 2. You've added the 8 and the 2. You know they're thinking of 10. So I usually spread the cards upon the table and I say, you know, you're thinking of a number you thought very intensely, and I have a feeling that you were probably thinking of, and I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably thinking of the number count 5 more, keeping my break. The number, probably, I cut the cards, very nonchalantly lay them back down on the table. You're thinking of the number 10, isn't it? 10 o'clock. You thought of 10 o'clock, didn't you? Yes, they did. So in other words, you can count the cards in small groups if you want. Okay, taking your time to do it. You're just picking up the cards and just sort of, I hate to say fondling the cards, but that's what you do. You're casually fondling the cards and trying to get your thoughts together. Gives you plenty of time to count the cards and transfer. You then reverse, turn the cards over, spread the cards on the table, and 10 o'clock is the hour they're thinking of.